Hi, this is Todd Danielson, the editorial director of Informed Infrastructure. Today I'm at the Esri User Conference speaking with Kyle Edmonds and Shane Melde. Why don't you guys start by introducing yourselves and tell us why you're here?
Sure. I'm Shane Melde again with ETM, Solutions Engineer on the Geospatial side, and we're here to present together on our digital twin project.
And I'm Kyle Edmonds, GIS manager for the City of Altamonte Springs, Florida. So I manage our ArcGIS enterprise, more of kind of a data nerd than in the AEC space specifically.
Have you done your presentation yet? And what is it about, or what was it about?
No, we haven't. We go tomorrow, and it is about our partnership in deploying a functional infrastructure-focused digital twin, which has been, a longer journey, a lot of lessons. We were talking on the way in, a lot of lessons learned, but a lot of really positive takeaways. But yeah, we go tomorrow, 2 p.m.
All right, well, how about a sneak peek? What were some of the lessons that you learned and the things that you took away from your project? And as much details on your project as you'd like to go into, be very welcome.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple parts of this I think that we're really illuminating. The technical component, I think probably the most interesting here, but also the product and project management strategy on how we deploy and implement. I think, we all have this instinct. Digital twin was a buzzword, almost an eye roller for a while. You heard it a lot, maybe over-marketed. We'll share some of the blame there and kind of how it was talked about. But the reality of where we're at now is that it's achievable and it's functional. And all the stepping stones and building blocks are now in place to deliver on the original promise. And so that's what we've done together as a partnership. We're an AEC firm. We also have a survey division, so we've invested a lot in the reality capture piece. And we've proven out that data pipeline quite nicely using high-res RGB, doing precision reality capture with RTK fixed ground control. So we've got a really nice repeatable way to produce high-resolution outputs, right? And that we call that, at least in our functional operations, we call that the digital canvas. And so we go through that process to gather a baseline, right? But also anytime anything on the ground changes, just imagine a new building takes over an empty lot, right? Your original data capture shows an empty lot. We want to fix that. And so now we have all the tooling, primarily leveraging Esri's infrastructure to capture and deliver on spot and not recapture the entire area. So that modularity has been really valuable for us. Boots on the ground time's really short, high resolution output, it's very reliable, it's quick. And what we're finding when we do that is another thing we were just discussing is we're getting a lot of really positive traction at all areas of the organization. So new things we're learning at ETM, processes we're developing, they're showing high traction at many different corners of Kyle's organization. And that's because we've got this highly contextualized, data-rich environment, so we can accidentally make everybody a GIS user, right? And so you don't have to be this professional. I mean, we do a lot of advanced analysis and publish those visualizations, and that's where Kyle and his team are really strong. But in terms of how that's consumed, how that's delivered, whether it's public works and the engineers on that side, all the way through to events and police, we've got this unified, functional, infrastructure-focused deliverable that's actually now it's branded and well managed. We've got a prioritized, roadmap, a backlog that we work with, a way to integrate, user story and user input on how it's functional in the day-to-day. And you're seeing this digital twin just fully born, again, based on the original promise, where you've got all these multiple personas, all these different technical capabilities, and then all in this centralized location, right? And so it's proven to be very, very fruitful and very high traction. And I think what we're one thing I'll close with, one of the major takeaways is how it's managed, because the challenge I think a lot of people had and maybe still have in implementing is, just a lot of moving parts. And we take the approach that it's both a product and a project. So as we're developing that functional deliverable, we're also managing at a project level every milestone. And that really gives us good visibility on like a changing environment. So we're engaged in this project on a 3-year term. We're not expecting 3 years down the road that it's going to look the same as today. So if it's not resilient and it's not scalable at a project level, then the product's not going to succeed. So we've put a lot of time on the front end on just being able to manage all of that. That's been a really important piece for us.
Okay, so I'd like to learn about the specific technologies, but let's back up a little bit. Tell me about the project in general. It's Altamonte Springs,
Right.
And what was the model? What was the project trying to do?
So maybe Kyle, you could tell them about why we started with the pilot area, but we started with the digital twin initiative. That was the target. So maybe tell them about Cranes Roost and where we're going to spread our wings.
Sure. Like before we started the pilot project in Cranes Roost Park, which I'll get to, I want to back up a little bit and talk about kind of the why. So we started with a lot of buy-in natively. Our city management recognized the need for us to begin breaking down data silos. So we have siloed systems all over the city. They don't speak to each other. There's only one portal to access that information, whether it's automatic vehicle location or it's asset management, whatever it may be. So the drive really started there, and our city manager had attended some conferences, heard about digital twins, and we were kind of directed like, hey, we're going this direction, like we want you to start us down that road. And so we decided to begin with a pilot just to prove the concept of this data interoperability and adding 3D meshes from multiple sources. We chose a small park right in the heart of our city for a few tactile reasons. So our Cranes Roost Park, it's mostly a lake, and that lake has its own hydrologic cycle. So we pond water there, stormwater runoff, and then that is pumped to create, it's pumped and purified and tossed back out as reclaimed water. So we have a citywide reclaimed water system that kind of reduces impact to our potable water during times of high stress. So we had this idea, and we had heard feedback from our engineering team that if we could somehow visualize the hydrologic cycle within this park, that would take a huge step in kind of breaking down some of those data silos and letting them kind of envision what the system is doing without the need to sign into one system and then go to another and compare their results or look at a spreadsheet that they're exporting from one of those systems. The park it's kind of like the cultural hub of our city. In addition to it being a stormwater asset, we have an autonomous vehicle that travels through the park. So it was really a centralized place with a lot of that touches a lot of key areas that we're looking to improve on in the data space. So it was kind of a no-brainer for us to start there.
So the park just seemed like a good fit to try and do this. And someone says, hey, let's make a digital twin. You're like, well, let's start someplace. Mm-hmm. And the park turned out to be a good place because it covered a lot of the bases to see if this will work. And the plans to then take it citywide?
There's two parts there. But one is proving out those technical workflows to, yes, take it citywide. So attacking the pilot again was like a lot of lessons learned. And there was a technical data capture plan. We have a model that's very simple but valuable and proven, good, better, best, right? And so for certain assets located around the perimeter of the lake or at the park, they're very high value for the city, high value for the citizens. We wanted to capture those to the maximum resolution, and so we ended up settling on the Esri Reality Engine and Reality Engine Suite. We tested everything though. So the plan was to get the best tooling for the job to provide the best photorealistic resolution for those specific assets. And in our testing, we ran, SiteScan, it's a cloud processing tool. We can run ultra-res and run parallels, so we can do a lot of processing at once. And we also ran some desktop solutions that allow for granular control over the GCP integration, just setting up the photo alignment properly, making sure that the photogrammetry component is, essentially it's the baseline. So we want it to be the strongest part, and it's the most visually engaging part. So that good, better, best model means that we're able to capture the entire park area with a high-resolution camera, nadir, or just off nadir, and do an ultra-res broad scope processing instance. And then we can also use mesh modifiers in the Esri ecosystem to take those single assets that are processed at yet a higher res. So we'll use best, right, our best products for certain specific, pieces of infrastructure. Now we can plug those in. And so now what you have, I'll go back to that digital canvas, is we've got this good, better, best model where we have critical pieces of the park, like this for this pilot project, that are every bit as real as we can expect them to be visually. And they also render. We've got all the web optimizations using WebGL and all the app integrations that are native within the Esri ecosystem to be able to manage that in a browser. So we've got max resolution, max portability, and where things are, the sidewalk in between these two high-res assets where it's slightly less critical, we can turn down the resolution on those areas. Because what does everybody do when you open Google Earth? You zoom into your house, right? So we know what people are going to do, especially employees of the City of Altamonte Springs. They're going to go right into that famous tower they have on the park, right? Or those art installations, and those are photorealistic, max resolution, and we put those in that canvas, right? So now we've got this baseline. We've proven out those processing pipelines for the pilot project, and we've got all these great integrations, everything from simple stuff to parcel data, which is important to a lot of people, to the subsurface infrastructure. So we can get in and see water lines and laterals and all the hydrant and manhole integrations. That's all that critical public works componentry sitting below that high-res piece. And now we've got this really unique space for collaboration. And so that's part of that lessons learned phase. The original question is, right, well, we've got this kind of dialed now. We use third-party providers for areas outside of the AOI, so we can apply mesh produced by satellite processing in the ArcGIS Reality Suite, or we can use Nearmap, a partner of ours, to punch in an SLPK for areas that just weren't covered by the drone. But now we don't have those data islands, so we have a contiguous photorealistic mesh, and it's very organic to move through. And then we get all the tooling that you would need. And so, yeah, that's exactly right. We've kind of got everything we need to close the gap and spread it out to the rest of the city. The way we're doing that is feature-based. So we're building a roadmap on which areas, right, but what functionality will serve those areas of the city. And everything, it's kind of fun. Everything, including the product itself, is called Replica. And every feature has a proper noun name behind it, and they have a stakeholder, and it's somebody outside of our development team that is driving that idea. And then every time we have a development, we can bring it back to them. So they're in the beta viewing cycle, and they're very included in the process, and that very much makes it theirs. Very functional and just a value-based delivery. That's the main thing. Get away from the buzzword only.
Yeah, I want to hear more about what you learned from this. But so if you did like a lot of the testing of the equipment for the pilot, do you feel that once you start expanding, will you have to retest, or do you feel like that you will now have eliminated that part, or because it's different applications, you'll have to test again to make sure that what you've done is still the best thing, or how does that work?
I think so. We're uniquely positioned. ETM has been around since the 70s, primarily started as a survey business, and they do a lot of that legwork every day. So we didn't come to the table from an uninformed position, right? So we had a lot of things we wanted to try, the mesh modification and the max resolution piece we wanted to polish, but now we've got a well-established setup. So I think we don't, like, the R&D phase is done, is how I would phrase that. And we're ready to go production scale. And that kind of resilience of the program is going to allow us to adapt to new changes in technology as things happen, but the process will remain the same. We've got something reliable and repeatable.
Why don't you tell me about the model and the pilot, and what gives you the confidence to think that this worked and that you can go further?
So there's a few things we wanted to test, and we delivered on them successfully. So from our side, we had a set of targets: stand them up and knock them down, right? So we kind of achieved from our own perspective, which is the less important perspective. So is it going to work? What gives us the confidence? We actually just turned and asked the City of Altamonte Springs, like, are we delivering value? It's a trusted partnership. They have a heavy focus on innovation, which I highly commend them for. They push in a lot of areas, not just this one, which is unique for a town or even a city of any size, really, at the scale at which they do that. But ultimately, if we're not delivering value, part of that trusted partnership is the ability to get up and walk away, right? So if we haven't provided something that's meaningful, let's just call it and go get lunch and try again. Don't force it, right? That's the idea. So that gives us the confidence. Is we had our targets, we had our R&D metrics and milestones that we were tracking. There's a lot of value in proving that feasibility, and then ultimately, when it comes to value, we care more about the City of Altamonte Springs. So they're the ones that thumbs up, thumbs down. That's what gives us the confidence to proceed as far as that goes.
It sounds like you've got a great relationship with the city. How does that work? Like, what is your workflows and your interactions with the city? How do you guys give feedback to each other and work toward the common goals?
So this goes back a little bit, and maybe you have some stuff to add, Kyle, but I think one thing that's helped us going through the pilot together, was a learning experience across the board, right? So we proved the technical workflows, yes, but also sharpened up a lot of those communication pipelines. One thing that we've done, which may be interesting for other groups, is set a regular cadence for technical development review, and then also a separate steering committee. And so we can take any technical development to the steering committee and talk about prioritization, challenges, roadblocks, anything. We're out in the open with it, anything from funding to technical limitations. Everything we do is constrained, right? We're working in the real world. And we're working in the city's IT stack. And our goal is not to say, hey, you need to buy all new this and that. It's to make it fit. And so we can take all of this information back to the steering committee. They can turn redirect the ship by 1 or 2 degrees. That's going to put us in a different place in a year or two. So that's one thing that I guess the how's it work question, that's really been the most valuable thing, I think, is that we've got really good technical communication for all stakeholders. We've got a steering committee that can redirect and there's a lot of forces at play, and we can start to absorb that as a technical development team. And the last thing we do is, again, we develop feature-based deliverables, and we have stakeholders for every feature. So that takes everything outside of the people that are just working on replica and puts it on the desk of the people that really will determine if the value that we forecast is real. So the people from Public Works, the people from the various departments and transportation. We mentioned the AV, the autonomous vehicle that's running there. That feature goes through the transportation team. And so it's important for us to be flexible in terms of communication. Again, it's a product and a project, right? So you got to be able to incorporate a lot of different feedback and consume a lot of information and make that digestible so it actually impacts the product properly. So I think we learned a lot of that through the pilot phase, but that's a little bit about how it's working and working well for us.
I think that's great because most people, you focus on the technology, but the really the bigger part is it's the relationships and the communication so that you're doing the project that everybody wants. So maybe Kyle, from the city's perspective, how did that work for you guys?
It's almost felt like kind of an organic process at this point. We've been kind of focusing in this area for a couple of years. And so since we started a couple of years ago, we keep kind of progressively building up. And from my perspective, it seems organic. It's probably very intentional from the ETM side. Shane and his colleagues have been really out in front of kind of what's going to come next. It seems like you've been able to predict where our pain points are going to be, and the infrastructure is being set up in advance so that we can address those concerns as they come up. As Shane mentioned, we have a weekly cadence for technical committee meetings where we are, opening the hood and getting our hands dirty. And then as well, in tandem with those, we have the steering committee meetings where we kind of bring what we've been working on to kind of one echelon higher in the organizations to make sure that we're hitting the mark. So that wasn't really something that I had at the forefront of my mind starting this off, but now that I see kind of what's taken place over the past year, a couple of years, it's worked out magnificently.
Oh, that's good. That's great because again, I think communication and discovering the project, that's just as much as the technology. So, how about a little bit some of the maybe the lessons that you learned from this? Something maybe surprised you, both either good or bad, and maybe some advice you might be able to give to. I mean, this is got to be something that's going on across cities, across the country, across the world. Maybe some advice for them as well.
Sure. The one thing I would say, and we're passionate about this. So we were walking up the stairwell talking about this because, at the Ezra UC, we've got big presentations. We've got San Francisco Airport and large organizations showing off really cool stuff. But the big lesson learned for us is all of the solutions are well democratized now. Like now we can lower the barrier of entry. And this stuff is achievable and attainable at whatever position on that, that trajectory, that digital transformation, just throw another buzzword in there, that what we can meet people where they are with these solutions now. And that's really what's made it a functional delivery as opposed to a pie in the sky, right? And I think that's the lesson that not only like the lesson learned, but like the victory that we're kind of taking away is it's achievable, it's near, it's here. And so like everything from the data capture and data processing, reality capture is at an all-time high in terms of ease and reproducibility. The integrations that are available to us, natively within Esri are the ones we're setting up manually with a little bit of, low code and transformation and the traction we're seeing when we actually put the effort into that communication piece. I mean, it's all coming together in that one kind of single epiphany lesson learned is it's here and it's now. It's finally time for everybody to adopt because it's very, very achievable.
Oh, that's great, even with smaller cities and smaller projects. Kyle, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so from our perspective, it was really surprising to see how fast this can come together. I have a little bit of experience in the survey space, but I've never seen high quality photogrammetry be collected and delivered in a matter of a few weeks. It's pretty wild. Just that the speed at which it can happen, and the plug and play aspect of it. As Shane had mentioned, we collected photogrammetry on a couple different flights, differing resolutions, and the speed at which we were able to take those and kind of plug and play and put the puzzle together is extremely impressive. And whenever we show our stakeholders this imagery, it really takes their breath away. Like the first time they see it, they think that it's taken us months or years to put that together, but in actuality, it doesn't take that long with today's tooling. So that's been kind of the most surprising part from our perspective.
Okay, in that case, how about for peers of yours, other people kind of in your similar role situations someplace else? What might advice you give to them so that they can get this done and maybe skip some of the learning curves that you guys had to go through?
I would say two things. Likely the combination of tools that you have available to you now can be rearranged to start this process, right? So the barrier is not high-resolution photogrammetry. If that's the last piece in the puzzle, right, the last move on the board game, then that's totally fine. It doesn't have to be the jump-off point, right? So that strategic component, I think, like that initial strategic review, is the other kind of important takeaway. It's like take stock in what you have available to you now. That's the best way to lower that barrier of entry. It's like use everything that you have existing, and then it'll also expose the gaps, and then also take the gaps with a grain of salt, because I think things are more achievable than ever. The infrastructure is in place to be able to quickly rearrange and deliver these things. And that's been a good takeaway. And for anyone in the industry that feels like this is far away or difficult or we just don't have a drone, it's now time to rethink that process. Right. That's my thoughts on. That's my industry message.
All right, Kyle, something to add?
Yeah, I guess from the city perspective, it's kind of like a duh, but find a trusted partner. We were lucky to have ETM right in our backyard in Florida, but I'm sure there are other firms that are thinking about these things in the same way and going through these motions. As the technology progresses and that barrier to entry kind of lowers, we are democratizing the technology, so more and more people are comfortable with using it. So yeah, from the city perspective, I'd say if others out there are considering going down a similar path, it's get connected and start talking to our private sector partners that can help us out in that way. I mean, being in the public sector, our budgets, they don't move very much. They move very slowly. We constantly have constraints. And in these kind of advanced workflows, this is really the space where we need the help. And we just have to be responsible in the way that we spend public money. But we're anticipating such a return on investment and such a fast advance from kind of zero to hero that it's become kind of a no-brainer. And yeah, I would just say be open to the technology and be open-minded whenever you approach that conversation.
It's an inspiring time. We're obviously talking at the Ezra UC right now, but it's we're seeing an industry shift, and just to echo Kyle's point about having those conversations, I think anybody that's in the industry, if you're hearing this, if you're reading about it, if you happen to catch the presentation, help us be the rising tide, right? And I think there's been a lot locked up in we've got the secret sauce. So that we don't find that very interesting. We've got a lot of big problems to solve. You're seeing them all over the stages here, all over, and there's great solutions published in your content as well. And I think contributing to the solutions is all about collaboration. So help us be the rising tide, right? That's our takeaway.